The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Let me just say, after Vito distorting the belt, they're proclaiming the real world champion. I'm going to tell y'all, with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one.
November 22nd, 1969, that they came to Barry, Michigan, all dressed in maize and blue. The words were said, the prayers were read, and everybody cried. But when they closed the coffin, there was someone else inside. Oh, they came to Barry, Michigan, but Michigan wasn't dead. And when the game was over, it was someone else instead. 11 Michigan Wolverines put on the gloves of gray, and as the organ played the victors, they laid Woody Hayes away.
Oh, yeah, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube and, of course, powered up, as always, by Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Network of podcasts. Oh, wow. I've got the chills already. All you got to do as a Michigan fan, of course, is listen to Bob Ufer, the great late voice from way back in the day, back in the 70s. If you were a Michigan guy, even Michigan State fans love to hear his voice. He was the epitome of Michigan broadcast back in the 70s. Welcome to the ultimate rivalry football week in the state of Michigan. It doesn't get any better than this. Undefeated Michigan hosting undefeated Ohio State. But before that, Thursday, it is a rivalry renewed between two bitter rivals from back in the 1930s. Thanksgiving Day rivalries for how many years? That, of course, the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Lions, of course, 8-2 coming in on the regular season. And it's the first time in my lifetime Detroit has ever been 8-2. As crazy as it sounds, it's been 61 years since the Lions were last 8-2. And that, of course, was 1962. And ironically enough, it was when they played the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving. They gave the Packers their only loss that year. They sacked Bart Starr 11 times on Thanksgiving, won 27-15, I believe was the score. And Detroit went on to an 11-3 record. They played Green Bay in Lambeau that year and had them beat 7-6, but got called for 12 men on the field. A little bit, depending who you talk to in this rivalry between the Lions and the Packers, it was a questionable call. Green Bay got another chance to kick the field goal, and they won 9-7. They ended up, Green Bay ended up 13-1 that year, winning the the world championship. The Lions, probably one of the best teams Detroit ever had. If you talk to a lot of people, they were 11-3 that year. And if they would have got that win in Lambeau, they would have won the tiebreaker, and who knows. But anyways, that was 61 years ago. And if you're a Michigan fan or a Detroit Lions fan or both or whatever, you couldn't be in a better spot right now. I don't care. They can talk about the sign stealing all you want, and maybe it was illegal. And Harbaugh, who knows what's going to come out of it. But you know what? You got to win the game on the field. And, especially with Ohio State, they stole signs as well. They gave signs away, whatever you want to call it. It's still going to be decided on the field. Two teams ranked second and third in the college football playoff rankings. I know the new ones are coming out tonight yet. If we can get them here shortly, we'll get them on the air. We will get them to you this week, before we get off the air tonight. But it's you can the words, they're trying. The rivalry is great. Right now there hasn't been a lot of bulletin board material besides maybe the sign stealing stuff. But it's still. Just can't wait for Saturday to get here. It'll be a pacing kind of a day if you're a Michigan fan, because, this is a game where hopefully if you're a Michigan guy, they could be 3 years in a row beating Ohio State. It's been a long time since we've been able to say that as Michigan fans. So it's going to be a huge game. We've got the turmoil in the background or whatever. Michigan serving that 3-game suspension, or Jim Harbaugh, I should say. He won't be on the sidelines, obviously, for the game Saturday. And it's like I said a couple of weeks ago in my rant. You know what? I'm glad, because that just fuels the fire for the Michigan players. They had a close call last week against Maryland. But before you all jump off the Mackinac Bridge or whatever, thinking that they don't stand a chance against Ohio State, remember what happened last year when they took on Illinois. Michigan needed a last-second field goal to win that one, 19-17, the week before they played down in Columbus. And we all know what happened. Michigan came out, and they opened up a can of whoop-ass on Ohio State in the second half, won that one going away 45-23, and ended up going to the college football playoff for a second straight year. So anyways, welcome to the show, everybody. We got our Captain Lou Extravaganza poll question, which is on my Twitter feed, which is at the real Captain Lou on X, or you can see it on our Facebook page, the Captain Lou Extravaganza Facebook page. And that is, who has a better chance in winning this weekend? Michigan, Ohio State, Detroit, or Green Bay? And the poll right now is overwhelmingly Detroit with the home game against Green Bay. 58% of the poll, or 58% to 29% for Ohio State, and 13%, or for Michigan rather, and 12% for Ohio State, and 1% for Green Bay. A couple of Green Bay Packer faithful out there trying to think that they can beat the Lions. And anything's possible, right? Jordan Love can run like Justin Fields. Maybe they got a shot. But anyways, that's our poll question. It'll be up until tomorrow. So we'd love to have you take part in it. Again, go on our Facebook page. It's the Captain Lou Extravaganza, or follow me personally, Louis Gamlin. Follow me on Twitter, or X, if you'd like to call it, at Real Captain Lou, and you can answer a trivia question, or drop me an email, sweetlou1965 at yahoo.com. Coming up in about 8 minutes, we're going to be joined by an old friend of the show, Todd Corder. He is the host of the podcast ATL Prime Sports. He's a Michigan guy. He was born and raised here in Michigan, and he went to U of M Flint, I believe. So it'll be fun to talk to him. We'll talk some NFL with him, with, of course, Michigan, Ohio State. We'll talk about college football in general, what he thinks is going to happen with the playoffs. We'll talk about this thing with Florida State. Now that they lost their starting quarterback, do they still deserve to be ranked 4th, even though they're undefeated? Should they get the nod over Washington? This is setting up, well, let's just say that the winner of Michigan, Ohio State this weekend, let's say they beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, they're going to get a spot. They'll be undefeated. It may work itself out. I personally don't think that Florida State should be penalized if they go undefeated. They win with their backup quarterback. The thinking is they won't be able to give Georgia or the winner of Michigan, Ohio State a game, or Washington if they're undefeated. But wow, if Oregon beats Washington and Alabama beats Georgia, I mean, ifs and nuts, I get it. But boy, that really could turn it into chaos on the last year of the college football playoff. So it's going to be a lot to talk about after this weekend. And, then you've got Alabama lurking in the shadows. Texas. I mean, Texas beat Alabama, but Alabama looks like the better team right now. But if you go by merit, eye test, they talk about that all the time. But, who goes between Texas and Alabama if there's a spot open? Do they deserve to leapfrog Washington? I watched that game against Oregon State. I know it was rainy. I get it. But, boy, Washington looked good. And they get Oregon again. Can Oregon beat Washington this time with Bo Nix? Who's going to be the Heisman winner? There's so many questions. You talk about the Heisman, and I was watching the game Saturday night, and after the Oregon game, Bo Nix was a minus 180. And then after the Washington game, he went back to plus 120. It's amazing how that flip-flopped in a course of a couple of hours. So the Heisman race is still up in the air. You've got Jaden Daniels from LSU. He's making a strong case for it. So Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. What happens if the Buckeyes go, crazy on Michigan this weekend? Harrison gets a couple 100 yards receiving and a couple of touchdowns. How can you not look at that and say he's should be up there? He's had a heck of a year. So, yeah, a lot to talk about with that. The Michigan State coaching search has been, as far as the coaches, it's been kind of kept under wraps. And there's starting to be a little bit of a growing sentiment here in East Lansing that maybe if somehow they beat Penn State on Saturday or Friday night, rather, Harlan Barnett should maybe be given the opportunity. There's that faction that honestly believe that Urban Meyer is still going to be the coach of the Spartans. Some of the people that were supposedly interested, Coach Elko from Duke, the coach from Oregon State, maybe not interested anymore. And the turmoil with Mel Tucker, again, raises its ugly head, where it came out today on ESPN that Alan Haller, the AD for Michigan State, wanted to fire Mel Tucker back in January when they found out, but the Board of Trustees said no. And so that's what was the delay, the back and forth, the comedy show that is Michigan State right now in their football and everything with behind the scenes is, it's amazing what's going on there and down the road in Ann Arbor with the sign stealing scandal and, who you believe, who you don't believe, with Coach Partridge getting let go last weekend or after the game. It's a nightmare. And, I've said on the show, and you could go back, if it is proven that he knows, then Harbaugh should get a huge penalty. Now, I don't know. I think it's 3 games. I don't think they're going to do any more, but you never know. It depends on what comes out. All I've said is show me the proof, and I still think Big Ten Commissioner Petiti, when he has a conference call with the presidents and the ADs of all the Big Ten schools, the hell are they going to say? They're going to say, yeah, suspend him. Yeah, fire him. Discipline the team. Don't let him be in the championship, whatever. So, there's so many things going on that, we've got a lot to talk about with that. So our guest, Todd Corder, is going to join us shortly. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will hopefully hook up with him and we'll talk a lot of Michigan football, Detroit Lions, NFL, all things football here tonight. It is the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and it's live right here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube.
It's the biggest game of the year, and your team doesn't have a coach. They don't even have a game plan. You probably aren't feeling very good about their chances. Make sure you're prepared for one of the biggest financial decisions of your life, retirement. Do you have a coach? What about a plan? Set yourself up for success by calling 877-222-8849 and having Mindy and Nolan McIntosh and their team at McIntosh & Associates create your retirement playbook. They'll help you think through taxes, income, legacy planning, and much more. When you're done, you'll have a customized retirement game plan that you can feel confident in. Start planning today with Central Michigan's retirement coaches, Mindy and Nolan McIntosh at McIntosh & Associates. Call 877-222-8849. That's 877-222-8849. Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got all of our podcasts on there, not only this one right here, but the ACHA Power Play. We're going to be back on that next week as the road to St. Louis is getting into gear. It's less than 4 months before puck drop for the national championships in the American Collegiate Hockey Association. March 7th through the 17th. We'll have another episode of that next week. But right now we are here with the Captain Lou Extravaganza, powered up by Belly Up Sports and also by SeatGeek. Use the promo code Captain Lou for $20 off your first purchase of tickets at SeatGeek. And I know there are tickets available for some of the Lions games, the Minnesota game, the season finale. You can get some for the rest of the home games as well. So make sure you check that out. So right now, let's go back to our guest line rather, and let's bring in a friend of the show on quite a bit with us, and it's great to have him back. Todd Corder from the ATL Prime Sports. Todd, how are you? Welcome back to the show.
Hey, I'm doing great, Lou. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Hey, same to you, Todd. I hope your family has a good Thanksgiving, and hopefully it's watching the Lions go to 9-2.
That would be an excellent Thanksgiving gift. I would take that.
Well, let's start out first. Let's start out by talking about the game coming up this Saturday. You know, the stakes are high, just like they were last year, the last couple of years with Michigan and Ohio State. And Todd, boy, you know the controversy surrounding it. We don't, unless you've been living under a rock the last 3 months here in college football, it's going to be one heck of a game. You know, all the different circumstances surrounding it. It's going to be fun Saturday.
Oh, no question about it. I think this game's going to be close, unlike the last two seasons. And to me, this game, I mean, gosh, this game here to me has got a lot of layers, more so than years past. Of course, you have the Jim Harbaugh situation. As everyone knows, he won't be coaching this game. Heck, he hasn't coached in 5 games this year, so they ought to be quite used to him not being on the sideline. Sharon Moore who is the offensive coordinator and is the intern head coach. There's no mulligan this year. The loser of this game will most likely not be in the playoffs unless a lot of things happen. Florida State, of course, would have to lose. Texas would have to lose. Georgia would have to lose. And Washington would have to lose, and you'd have a 1-game winner in Oregon. I mean, there's just so many ways that this can shake out. But to me, the loser of this game most likely won't be in the playoffs. You have the Sharon Moore versus Ryan Day matchup. I mean, the people in Ohio, if he doesn't win this game, they're going to say he didn't even beat the intern head coach, and he'll be 0 for 3 in the last 3 years.
Hey, Todd, right there, I want to ask you, do you think that puts any more pressure on Ryan Day than normally?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
I mean, I don't. I think these guys, they have tunnel vision. My son's a coach, a high school football coach. He's not the head coach, but he's on the varsity staff. And no, I don't think that at all. I think they just go about their daily routine. This game means more to them. But no, I don't think so at all. This game, as much as the head coaches are being talked about, it's about the players. So to me, the players will 99% of the time, they're the ones that are going to win the game. Can coaching make a difference? Yes, it can. But I think it's the players on the field and get to the players on the field. Lou, the last 21 seasons, who's ever ran the ball for the most yards in this game has won it.
Yep.
And guess what? Michigan has outran Ohio State by 340 yards the last 2 seasons. Now, the last 2 games. Now, Travion Henderson is healthy.
Yep.
And he's running really well. And Ohio State's offensive line has gotten better as the season goes along. Michigan, on the other hand, they played really well, and they sent a statement to the Big Ten and Penn State and the entire country that whatever you think, stealing signs or whatnot, we're going to run the ball 32 times down your throat. We're going to run it. Try to stop it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this week, which made me nervous because, when you look at it, Carson Barnhart, he's a critical piece to this Michigan offensive line. He will be at tackle. Michigan must protect J.J. McCarthy with its tackles in this game. J.J. McCarthy's mobility with his knee is something to talk about. You can tell he's not 100% out there.
Right.
Got to give J.J. McCarthy time to throw the ball, and they must run the ball against this much improved front four for Ohio State. If I can flip the script and go the other way, the way to beat Michigan is you've got to run the ball between their tackles. You got to get 3 tackles out of them, and you've got to be able to get Michigan in some type of nickel situation. That's Ohio State's best shot. Now, they've got to throw at Ohio State when they want to, not when they're forced to.
Right.
And it's the same way for Michigan. They've got to be able to do the same thing. They got to be throw it when they want to, but they've got to run it. They want to run it when they want to also.
One of the things you look at, everybody's kind of panicking up here anyways too about the game against Maryland. But remember, in my opinion, last year when they had to kick that last second field goal to beat Illinois, and they went on to beat Ohio State. So are you concerned at all about last week's encounter with Maryland?
It was a trap game.
Yeah.
And no doubt, like Illinois was a trap
Yep.
game. I think you can throw that stuff out the window,
Yeah.
honestly. I think it just comes down to players winning their one-on-one matchups this week. And again, to me, at tackle is huge for Michigan with Carson Barnhart. He's got to have a good game. And he's going up against a good Ohio State front four. This is a much improved Ohio State defense this year than it was a year ago. And, to me, look at Michigan. This is Blake Corum's chance to really show in this game. He didn't get a chance in 21. It was Hassan. And last year, obviously, it was oh geez, I just got lost my train of thought on the running back that had such a great game. Edwards,
yeah.
Yeah, my fault. Edwards had a great game a year ago. Now this is Blake Corum's chance to shine.
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine he is chopping at the bit while he's giving turkeys.
Exactly.
Turkeys. He would like to carve Ohio State up by running the football this week, no question.
So, all right, I'm going to give you the first. I'm going to put you on the spot with my first off-the-field question. Is this Jim Harbaugh's last regular season game coaching in Ann Arbor?
Oh, golly. There's a lot of layers to that. I have no clue.
Yeah.
And anybody that will tell you they have a clue, they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
John U. Bacon says something on Twitter that is very notable. Nobody knows nothing. And I don't know, sitting here in Metro Atlanta, and I don't think the writers know covering the team. I don't think anyone knows, to be honest with you. There's a lot of layers to that. I mean, what happens with the NCAA? How far do they come across into this investigation? Is as far as it goes? Is this as far as they can prove?
Right.
Because it is, Jim Harbaugh could be coaching at Michigan next year because, the president of the University of Michigan loves him, and they sure would, and they want to give him an extension. They want him to stay. Now, if it goes up to as far as everyone says it's going to go, and he knows, then yes, he wouldn't be at Michigan next year for sure, because you're talking loss of scholarships, you're talking a lot of other layers and a lot of trouble. I know the Big Ten is breathing a sigh of relief that Michigan accepted this 3-day deal, and we know why they did. Partridge is gone,
yeah.
The linebackers coach. He might not have anything to do with the sign stealing and the scandal, but he sure was trying to cover up for it, which was not right at all because he's gone. So, to answer your question, in the long about 2 ways that I've gone about it here, I have no clue.
And I got to tell you, it's amazing. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not off the air, but what really is kind of ironic and fun to watch, not know if it's fun, but ironic, is the coverage of all of this. ESPN has got the lime pits dug and the noose on the tree and, the guillotine ready. Whereas you go to Fox and they were all about due process and let it play out and this and that. Don't go overboard on it. And it's ironically enough, ESPN does not cover the Big Ten anymore where Fox does. And it's just night and day, the reaction, and still the reaction with the ESPN people. I am going to turn on game day at 9:00 Saturday morning just to see the reaction that the ESPN folks get, especially Pat McAfee, when he's going to try to sing the U of M fight song when, pardon my French, he said 3 weeks ago, if Michigan State gets in, it's bullshit. So I can't wait to see that.
Well, kind of answered your own question while they're covering it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. ESPN has a big SEC contract coming up, and then the Big Ten, they've got it with CBS, Fox, and NBC. So, they each have their own point of views. Yes, I kind of feel ironic that they're trying to, most of the time we do let someone go through the process of proof. You have to prove someone guilty, and it's been kind of reversed here. They want Harbaugh to prove himself being not guilty, and they want to claim him guilty before any of the facts come out. And the networks are having a ball against each other, and it's all about ratings, and it's all about money, and it's all about eyeballs watching the screen. And I'll be at my destination on Saturday, but while that stuff is on, I'll be on my way to the destination with my wife. So I will see the game, but I will be on the road Saturday morning.
All right. This is I just got the rankings, and it leads into my next question. Washington has leapfrogged Florida State into the 4th spot in the college football playoff rankings. And my question to you was, does Florida State still belong with losing their star quarterback? They're getting penalized, it looks like. And it's going to be interesting to see, Todd, if they all 5 of these teams, well, they can't, but, let's say, for example, let me throw a carrot at you here. I love playing hypotheticals. You mentioned it before. Let's say Alabama beats Georgia, and you've got an undefeated Florida State team and an undefeated Washington team, and we'll say and Michigan beats Ohio State. So, I mean, are you going to leapfrog not only Alabama over Texas? Are you going to leapfrog them over, let's say, an undefeated Florida State team? This is going to be crazy.
Well, over the years, the committee has always had this situation pretty much in a nice, tight bow, and it's really gone chalk. It's really made it easy for them every year. This may be the year, and thank God this is the last year of the 14 playoff.
Yes.
I'm ready for 12, and honestly, I'm ready for 16. I think you have to include all these conferences, and all these teams have to at least have a representative or a chance. But back to it, the only poll matters is the last one. And a Florida State's backup quarterback who's really done really well this year in limited playing time and the amount of games that he's played in, I don't understand why a team would penalize a team for losing their quarterback. This is the only sport that I know that excuse my French, that the damn thing's not won on the field every once in a while. It's always points, or it's about who looks better, or it's all about the eyeball test. Thank God we're going to some kind of deal next year where it has to be on the field. And to penalize Florida State because they lose their starting quarterback when you don't even know how good the other quarterback is. He may be as good as the other quarterback or just might be right behind him in the depth chart. He may not be as good as player. We don't know how good this player is. He's had limited playing time as Rodmaker at Florida State. He played well. I know it was against Northern Alabama, but he has 5 touchdowns. He's 20 for 31 on the season, 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. Florida State can win this game at Florida, and they can win at Louisville against Louisville in the ACC championship game. Now, would Washington have and I hate this part, a better resume? Who knows? But there's still a lot of football left to be played. There's still 2 weeks, and you have conference championship games. And, say Florida State wins out, you get the Michigan-Ohio State winner, Texas wins out, Alabama wins, and then Washington wins too. My God, the world would have an earthquake if the SEC didn't have a team in the playoffs, and Christ could come down and take us all now. So, I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts. I'll get to it. There's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts, and I think we just need to let it play out. And I really don't have much of reactions over this poll stuff until all the games are played. And then if it doesn't wrap neatly in a bow, then I would go into it deeper. But right now, I think it means nothing.
All right. It's amazing. And you're right. It always usually seems to figure itself out by the time we get done with conference championships the first weekend in December. So, yeah.
I'm hoping this is the year where they have controversy.
I do too. I agree 100%. Before
Even though I don't think anyone's going to beat Georgia, and that includes Alabama.
No, I don't know. I think Alabama is much improved, especially since they played Texas, but it's going to make for a great game that day. That's for sure. I want to wrap up the college portion with you, Todd. Then we'll head over to the NFL. Up here, you kind of can see it from afar down there. Michigan State's coaching search has been pretty quiet. They're pretty tight-lipped about who they've interviewed, except you've got all the rumors where, like yesterday, there was a flight from Sarasota to East Lansing with Urban Meyer. There's a faction that want him here at Michigan State. If Michigan State beats Penn State Friday, I know it's a big if, but Penn State's offense isn't exactly setting the world on fire. Should Harlan Barnett be considered and get that that interim tag taken off and have them give him the job full time?
It's a really good question. I think he would need to be considered. Yes.
Yeah.
He would go 3-6 under these circumstances, and I don't think the record should even be mentioned, even though I said it. He'll have won 3 of his last 4 games.
Yeah.
He has win against Nebraska. He has one against Indiana, and if he gets one against Penn State, that's 3 out of 4, even though they lost a big lead at Rutgers. He deserves an interview.
Well, he's going to get one.
Barnett is Michigan State football.
Yeah.
He really is. He's been a Spartan through and through. He was a great Michigan State player back in the day, an All-American, for goodness sakes, had a good career in the NFL, and has given his life to Michigan State University. You're darn tootin' that he deserves an interview as Harlan Barnett. Only 4 players have entered the transfer portal since Mel Tucker has left. I know 6 recruits have decommitted, but this has been a tough situation, and he's done a really good job of keeping the team together. His first game was a home game against Washington. It was almost unfair.
Oh, yeah.
So my thing is he deserves an interview. You're darn right.
We kid, especially like Tim Whelan commented, why change the MSU coach? He has done, in my opinion, a remarkable job with the hand that he's been dealt. I mean, it is a dumpster fire right now there. And, I look at like this situation that came out today with Mel Tucker saying that he wanted Alan Haller wanted to let him go at the beginning of the calendar year, but the board of trustees said no. I mean, now this is ESPN reporting, so take it with a grain of salt because they've had an axe to grind with Michigan State for years. But what do you think of do you think that there is any possibility that Urban Meyer would really coach at Michigan State?
Well, I tell you what, I'm one to say never say never. I'm the one to say that I've had Justin Spiro, who is in charge of basically the race, the flag to get Urban Meyer.
Oh boy, is he ever!
And you know what? He's done a great job with it. I've had him on my podcast, ATL Prime Sports. He really has done a great job on social media. He's had several shows about bringing Urban Meyer to Michigan State. It depends if Urban Meyer really wants to coach again. You've heard him say he's done. You've heard his wife say he's done. You've heard Michigan State roll out the red carpet, the money, etc. I'll never say never until it's totally ruled out. I don't think so, but I've seen stranger things happen.
Yeah, it's funny you wonder what the price tag would have to be. You hear, thousands of rumors around here saying that one of the things is one of his conditions is he doesn't want to do the meet with the alums or with the boosters and all that. I just, a coach is a coach, and you wonder if he's got the fire back, but I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. Maybe they're not saying anything at Michigan State because they're waiting for the regular season to be over and they don't want to get accused of tampering or whatever, but it's
So I think they've done a great job of what they've done so far. They've gotten to a second round of 4 candidates.
Yeah.
Mike Elko of Duke, Jed Fish of Arizona. Jed Fish is a very interesting name, as you know.
Yeah.
He was at Michigan under Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Jason Candle of Toledo, which I think is an excellent football coach.
Agreed.
Jonathan Smith at Oregon State. These are all really good candidates. I'm going to lay another candidate out for you they haven't interviewed, but I tell you what, I'd give him a phone call. He's only 33 years old. Glenn Schumann, the co-defensive coordinator at Georgia. He's 33 years old, as I said, and he's won 6 national championships, 4 with Nick Saban and 2 with Kirby Smart. He is ready to become a head coach. I'm Michigan State. I'm picking up the phone. If you haven't seen Georgia play defense this year, except for the first series, it's been a treat all year. They always seem to spot someone a touchdown every week or a field goal and just go ahead and annihilate them the rest of the day. So, there's a lot of good young coaches out there that are dying for an opportunity. And Michigan State hires any of these gentlemen, it would be a good hire. Fish is an interesting one. Candle is just wow. I mean, these Michigan State's in good shape to hire a coach, whoever they hire, even if they stay with Harlan Barnett, which I don't think they will. But I know one thing: whoever Michigan State hires as a head coach, better keep Harlan Barnett on the staff, because that would be wrong.
Well, I'll tell you, one person that he's got in his corner is Tom Izzo, that being Harlan Barnett, and that's going to go a long ways, I think, in determining who would be the next coach, because he's going to have a say in it, because he didn't have one with Mel Tucker, and he made no bones about it. He wasn't happy about it, and when Tom Izzo speaks, people listen. There's no doubt about it. Todd, let's switch.
Michigan State University, no question about it.
100%. And you've got a good thing going with Adam Nightingale with MSU hockey right now. They're ranked 7th in the country. They are looking very good. Keep an eye out for them. Watch them in NCAA hockey. Let's go over to the NFL while we got you on for a little bit more here. The Lions, Todd, and I'm assuming you're not 61 years old, so in our lifetime, they've never been 8-2. So that's just mind-boggling.
I'm pretty close to 61.
Well,
I'm 59.
Well, I'm close too. I'm 58. So, I can obviously remember 91, and I can vaguely remember 1970. But some of these teams that they've had have been decent. But, it's ironic that the last time they were 8-2, they played the Packers and gave them the only loss on Thanksgiving in 1962. So we've got such a great setup, with the Lions right now coming in with a very good opportunity to go 9-2. They snatched victory out of the jaws of defeat Sunday against Chicago. thanks in part to Matt Eberflus and whoever's doing the play calling there, but that's a story for another day. But wow, I don't know how to act, Todd, with our Lions being 8-2.
Oh, I do. I'm gleeful and joyful every Sunday.
There you go.
I mean, you know, in the 90s, it was a good run. They made the playoffs 6 times with Barry. They had some playoff appearances with Billy Sims, and unfortunately, his career got cut short, and they had some heartbreaking playoff losses, like in '83.
Oh, God.
When Eddie Murray missed the field goal off the dirt and candlestick, and Gary Danielson threw 5 interceptions that day, and they still almost won the game.
Monty Clark praying to the sky. Remember that?
Gosh, I could go to every one of those playoff losses in the 90s, but I won't because you don't last long for a show. But, you know, they lost 3 times with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. They got robbed on a play call around midfield in Dallas.
Yes,
and
they did.
Turned the complexion of that game. I would love nothing more for the Lions to host the Dallas Cowboys like in '91 and kick the living crap out of them and get another playoff game and have a home game at Ford Field. And you know, look, there's been a lot of quarterbacks that have been injured, knock on wood. This season. We still have 7 games to play for the Lions. They must keep Jared Goff upright and healthy. And as they used to say in that movie, The Blind Side, run the dang ball, Bert, because they were, you know, there were a couple of plays that baffled me, and I think their play caller is awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson. But when you run the ball 20 yards and the next play you run 12 and then you throw a pass, I'm like, no.
You know what, Todd? I agree. Here's the play call, and I'm not second guessing Ben Johnson. I'm enjoying him because enjoy him while it lasts, because I guarantee you he will be a head coach next year. You know,
he could be.
You know, but in the second half when Detroit got the ball, they're driving, and they ran it for, you know, like you said, for 20 or whatever. They ran it for 8. They had it 3rd down and 1.5 yards. With Dan Campbell, you know, it's 4-down territory when you're on the good side of the 50. Why he tried to throw it and got sacked, and I thought, oh my God, that's the turning point, you know. But this leads to my next question. And do you think that Jared Goff should be in the consideration for the MVP?
Wow, I mean,
I know he had a bad start.
He's as played as well as any quarterback in the NFL except for last week. And, you know, the old Lions would have lost that game going away, but as they say now, the brand new Lions, they just don't lose, period. What a comeback that was. I wasn't feeling well Sunday, but I tell you what, I just couldn't believe when they came back and won the game. And I thought, you know what? The Bears have Lionitis. They caught the Detroit Lions disease, and I hope they catch it for the next 60 years.
I hope so too. It's almost like they tanked it to keep that draft status. Which, speaking of draft picks, I got to tell you, this latest draft that that they had with Brad Holmes, you know, Laporta's playing great. Branch, Gibbs, and Campbell. Now, Laporta might be, you know, they haven't targeted him as much, but boy, oh boy, when it comes down to needing money catches, he's there. What a draft. You know, everybody questioned him taking Gibbs and Campbell. Oh my God, they're looking good. They're making Holmes look like a genius.
The NFL, Lou, so far.
Yeah.
You know what? That Campbell pick had Chris Spielman all over it.
Oh boy.
He probably said to the Lions personnel, "That's me at Ohio State. That dude right there. That's me."
Oh my God, yeah. So they get Green Bay on Thanksgiving, and you know it's going to be so much fun. You know, it's always a great, you know, Thanksgiving's always a fun day to watch football. I mean, it hasn't been lately because the Lions have had some heartbreaking losses, but they get Green Bay. You know, I know Jordan Love is playing better, but, you know, something tells me they're going to dial the heat up on Jordan Love like they did at Lambeau, and I think it's going to be a long day for Jordan Love.
Well, this is a short week, as you know. So 3 games are going to keep everything simple. I'm actually going to have to tape the game. I'm working. I have college basketball on Thursday. I have a doubleheader, believe it or not.
Huh.
I have women's college basketball, so I will have to tape the game. But I expect Detroit to run the football on Green Bay with a lot of play-action pass. And defense, you're right, Lou, they are going to dial it up. When Aiden Hutchinson finally got through and put the game away and then punted the football in the stands, I thought there wasn't a better punt in football this season. I don't care if it went 2 yards and it was ugly. It was just awesome to watch him break through, push that lineman away from the Bears like he was a stick, and just move aside and make him punt the ball out, and then he punted it in the stands. It was awesome.
So let's take a quick look around the NFL, Gavion. You got 5 more minutes? Are you good?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I got to ask you, is the love affair over with Arthur Smith in Atlanta?
You know, there's a lot of crazy talk here. Look, there was a friend of mine used to say years ago, there's NFL talent and there's Lions talent. Well, Arthur Smith he's been coaching Falcons talent the last 2 years. It was remarkable that he went 7-10 in each of his first 2 seasons. Talent-wise, they're in the bottom 7 in the NFL. I know they made some adjustments this year. Okay, they're still in the bottom 10. They have a quarterback that's thrown 6 touchdowns this year. They've had a quarterback that's had way more turnovers than he has touchdowns. I mean, they benched Desmond Ridder. They went with the guy that they went the last 2 weeks that the Falcons have. They can run the ball, but they haven't ran it enough. But to me, if you can't throw the ball down the field, or you're not willing to let your quarterback throw down the ball down the field, it puts your offense in a tough predicament, and that's been hard on Desmond Ridder. And, the Falcons' defense has been pretty good, but when they played anybody that's better than average, they've been thumped. Yeah. Their schedule has been one of the easiest in the NFL, and they still are 4-6. They played Tyler Heineke, who honestly, he has a hamstring injury. So now, the Falcons have announced that they're going with Desmond Ridder for the rest of the season. This is a team that, even though they're in the worst division in the NFL, they're not making the playoffs. I have my co-host on the show, and they think they had a chance at it, and I kept saying it's fool's gold. They're not going to make the playoffs. This is a bottom 10 team in the NFL.
To me, I've watched a little bit of the Falcons, and their offensive line is horrible. And I think, to me, that's why Bijan hasn't been doing as well, and I think that's why Ridder hasn't done well either. But I think Seattle's in a little bit of trouble now. Their schedule is going to get pretty tough.
You mentioned Bijan; he's averaging 5 yards a carry this season. I mean, and some of it's been on his own.
Yeah,
his offensive line is look. The Falcons need help in 2 areas that you need to improve the most: offensive line, defensive line, and quarterback.
Yeah.
That tells you how far they are away from contending.
Yeah. So Seattle, I still don't know how they lost to the Rams on Sunday.
Matthew Stafford.
Well, yeah, he pulled out another comeback, but now they've got a tough schedule coming up, starting with San Francisco. They got to play Philadelphia, then San Francisco again. Seattle's in trouble and missing the playoffs.
It could be, but Pete Carroll is one hell of a coach.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do look at their next 4 games: Frisco at Dallas, at Frisco, Philadelphia, and then it lightens up at Tennessee, home against Pittsburgh, which will be an interesting game since they don't have Matt Canada calling for them anymore. At Arizona, then against Minnesota, Dallas, and Green Bay. So yeah, the next 4 weeks are really going to be tough for Seattle. And you look at the playoff race in the NFC, it's, what is it, 7? Is it top 6 or top 7 get in? I always forget that.
It's the top 7. The top seed gets the first round bye, and then it's 2 through 7 play in wild card weekend.
Yeah, I mean Seattle's going to be in it. Well, they're in 6th place, 6-4. They still have 7 games to go. If they can go through the tough 4-game stretch at 2-2, they'll be in good shape. I mean, It's going to come down the last week.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll's a hell of a coach.
Oh, he is. And so it'll be interesting to see. I'm just not sold on them, on their defense, and we'll see what happens with this brutal 4-game stretch. You mentioned the Cowboys. They're always talked about. They're incredibly average the last 30 years. When they have a decent record, they get bounced in the playoffs. We could sit here and say, is this the year that they're going to make noise? But
it could be.
Well, Todd,
their
but
defense is outstanding, Lou. To me, it comes down to Dak Prescott making the plays. I know he's playing well statistically, and he's having a good year, and he's done really well. But, I go to the little things for Dak Prescott, like stepping out of bounds when you're all alone in Philadelphia. He stays in bounds. They win that game. A couple of years ago in the playoffs, you got to get rid of the ball. You slide, and then there's no time. I mean, these little things with Dak Prescott that, is he going to get Dallas over the hump? And I don't know. Their defense is sure good enough to go to the Super Bowl, I can tell you that.
Well, it is, but, get them away from Jerry Dome, and they don't do anything in the playoffs. And Tony Romo was the same way, so it's not just Dak Prescott. So that's what.
I just want to know if anybody's going to beat Philadelphia. I mean, they didn't even play well in the first half, but you know what Philadelphia is? They're just a nasty meat and potatoes football team on each line of the scrimmage, and they got a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who can do the tush push. He can get you 5 or 7 yards on his feet. He may not have a great statistical game, but he knows how to win, and he can throw the deep ball to those 2 magnificent wide receivers they have. And to me, Philadelphia is the team to beat in the NFC, right along with San Francisco, Detroit, and Dallas. You can put those 4 in there, and I would say Philadelphia is 1, and then you can shake up the order.
Well, it's funny with Jalen Hurts. I've always said this on this show since day one, since he played at Alabama. Everywhere he's gone to, he's won. I mean, he's gotten, with Alabama, with Oklahoma, and then with Philadelphia now in the pros. I mean, he hasn't won the Super Bowl yet, but he's got them there. The guy has a winning mentality. But you mentioned, that Philadelphia, that's how they play every game, and they're 9-1. So they got to be doing something right. Todd, I want to go ahead.
They're just nasty. Lou.
Yes.
I like watching Philadelphia play.
Yeah.
They're old school.
Yes, they are. And they've got a quarterback that can beat you with his legs and with his arm. And, getting back to Chicago real quick before we close, I got to tell you, that game against Detroit, if they would have not taken the ball out of his hands in the fourth quarter, if I'm a Chicago Bear fan, I want Eberflus out on the first train because he had Detroit beaten single-handedly. They take the ball out of his hands, 3 straight running plays up the middle. Then they have him throw a bomb. I'm sitting there watching the game. I'm thinking, thank you. I mean, that's something that Matt Patricia would have did. And, to me, Justin Fields he's getting a raw deal in Chicago.
I think he's one hell of a quarterback.
Yeah.
And if, they're going to probably have a new head coach next year. I hate speculating on stuff like that.
Well,
but that's unfortunately how the NFL is. Justin Fields is a really good quarterback. He can run it. He can throw it. Chicago has some really good skilled position players. They've got Foreman, they got Herbert, they got Johnson. I mean, they have DJ Moore, a wide receiver. This is a team that's, pretty darn good. They need a better offensive line. They need a better defensive line. If whoever can come in next year and do that for the Bears and improve in those areas, Chicago could be a fast improving team. They're going to have high draft picks next year. To me, it'd be a good destination and a good job.
All right, last question. I got to let you go. We're almost up against it. what is your favorite Thanksgiving side dish?
Well, that's changed over the years because I do have kidney disease. I have chronic kidney disease. I'm at the very, 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 very beginning of stage 3. I don't know if you know this about me, but my ureters closed on Thanksgiving Day of 2019.
Oh, geez. Sorry about that.
And I almost passed away. So I have one kidney left. I have a stent in so I can use the bathroom, and it has to be replaced once a year for the rest of my life. So my Thanksgiving meal has changed drastically over the years. Side dish, I usually have a steak for Thanksgiving. I can't have the turkey and the gravy and all that. I can't have the, I guess it's, what's that? Cranberry sauce.
There you go.
I can have cranberry sauce.
All right.
So that's my favorite now. My meal has changed.
All right.
So I used to have all the crud, but I can't anymore due to my health, and I am in good health despite my situation.
Well, that's funny because we're doing steak for Thanksgiving this year. We're trying a little different. I'm gonna cook a prime rib on the grill Thursday, so we're gonna keep our fingers crossed on that. Well, Todd, hey, this has been great. I appreciate you coming on as always. It's always fun talking sports with you, talking football and whatnot. Give us again your podcast and how we can find you.
Well, you can catch all the podcasts on ATL Prime Sports. You can catch it through you can catch it on Twitter. You can go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. I did a college basketball show today. It's called the Clayton State College Basketball Show. We have head coach of the Clayton State Lakers on before every home game, Vince Alexander, and we talk about the previous game and the upcoming game. You can catch that. You can catch it at CORDER TODD on Twitter, and I will. That's how you can catch it. Of course, I do college football for the SIAC conference, play-by-play. The games are on ESPN Plus, and when I'm not doing play-by-play, I do have color commentary. So,
all right.
Between the college basketball and the college football, and of course, with some hockey coming up, hopefully we go to St. Louis this year for the ACHA Nationals, and they're going back to the format, Lou, of 2 weeks, correct?
Yeah, and the Division I for the men has been expanded to 24 teams this year, so 82 teams are going to be in St. Louis the 7th through the 17th of March.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Yep, it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be, as you know, there's going to be some great teams converging, and there's going to be some great storylines there. And it's less than 4 months away, and it's going to be exciting. All right, Todd.
There's upsets always in that tournament.
Always. Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
A 4 always beats a 1. We just don't know where it comes from.
There you go. All right, Todd. Well, good luck with your broadcasts on Thanksgiving Day, and we'll talk soon. I won't text you scoring updates on the Michigan game then. I won't ruin your surprise. How's that?
Oh, you want to know? I'll get the Michigan game. I'm going to see that where I'm going to be.
Or the Lions game. That's the one. All right. All right. The Lions game, I won't text the score to you. So, all right, Todd.
Don't worry. Somebody will. Don't worry. Someone will ruin it for me. That's the given.
All right. Well, again, thank you for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye
you
now.
too. Bye now. Todd Corder, of course, you can catch him, as always, on the ATL Prime Sports podcast on Twitter and also their YouTube page. Wow. Great conversation again. A lot to look at here this weekend. The big game, 11-0 Michigan, 11-0 Ohio State. The line has gone down to 3.5. I believe Michigan is a favorite in that one. Boy, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a real good game. And, Jim Harbaugh's not going to be there. We all know that. It's going to be the last game of his 3-game suspension that was imposed by the Big Ten. And I know that that's going to fuel the fire of the players and the assistant coaches. Again, don't read too much into that Maryland game. I know they struggled a little bit in the second half. Remember, they jumped out to a 23-3 lead. But remember last year when Michigan played Illinois and they needed that last second field goal to win 19-17. Then they went down to Columbus and put the wood to Ohio State. So we'll see again this year. But, it's a rivalry game, and both teams are going to be fired up. And the one thing I'll disagree with Todd, I think there is going to be a little bit more pressure on Ryan Day. He's more of an emotional coach than they've had in the past. And, I really believe that it could very well end up being, if they lose to Michigan, that'll be 3 straight that, that Ohio State has lost to Michigan, and that hasn't happened in quite a long time. That's got to be in the back of his head a little bit. So we're all hoping Michigan here in the state of Michigan that they could pull it off. I don't know too many state fans. Well, the ones that really hate Michigan are rooting for Ohio State, but I think, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but there's so much at stake going on with that game as far as the college football playoff rankings with Michigan and Ohio State. It's like Todd said, and I agree. I think the loser of this game Saturday, I don't see them getting into the playoff, not this year. There's no way that Ohio State will back into it, even though if they lose to Michigan in this game. You've got Washington, you've got Florida State, you've got Texas, Alabama. Should Alabama beat Georgia? How are you going to eliminate both of those teams? It's going to be very, very interesting to see who is all going to be in that tournament or in that playoff. So there is a lot more at stake. I just, again, don't see a 12-1 Michigan or a 12-1 Ohio State team getting into the playoff. Right now, the rankings are out in the college football playoff. The top 4, a little different this week. Washington jumped over Florida State, even though both teams won. Their quarterback, Florida State's quarterback Turner, is out for the year. Broken leg, I believe it was. So, I mean, without watching the show, the reveal show, and hearing the actual reasons why they put Florida State at 5, I can imagine that's why they bumped Washington up. Now, I know they beat Oregon State. It was a great game. It was a close game. I get it. I don't have a problem with it. But, to Todd Corder's point about Florida State, maybe they're going to say their offense. You could say that about Washington's defense. It's not that great. The Pac-10 defense isn't as great as maybe some in the SEC or whatnot. So not every team is perfect. I think the closest to a perfect team right now is Georgia. So those are the top 4 right now: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Washington, with Florida State at 5. So that's kind of a look at the college football scene as far as the playoffs going. Again, we talked about Michigan State. Wouldn't it be? I got to tell you that I read the article and I read what Tom Izzo said. Those of you that aren't familiar with Michigan State, Tom Izzo carries a lot of weight, and what he said about Barnett, he thinks that he should get an opportunity to be the head coach. And I got to tell you, if they can pull off the upset Friday night in Ford Field against Penn State, I wouldn't be surprised if they would give it to him. He's going to get an interview, and what a better way to accentuate that would be with a win over Penn State. It's good, Penn State's starting quarterback isn't going to be playing. Allward, I believe, is injured, which if you looked at him against Michigan or Ohio State, it really didn't matter. But Michigan State is a 21-point underdog in that game Friday night. And I know Michigan State struggled, but Penn State isn't exactly setting the world on fire on offense. And I don't know if Penn State's going to score 27 points on Friday night at Ford Field. That's a lot of points. So we're going to keep an eye on the MSU coaching search as well. And, of course, coming up Thursday, Detroit and Green Bay. First time in 61 years, Detroit's been 8-2, looking to keep it going. It's a rivalry renewed for me and, again, for the state of Michigan with, rivalry week with Ohio State playing Michigan and Green Bay and invading Ford Field against Detroit. Wow, what a fun weekend it's going to be with that, with the Michigan State-Penn State game on Friday. Yeah, and then some of the other games in college football, Oregon State, Washington State. That Oregon State game is going to be huge as well. So a lot of football to watch. And it's going to sit back and enjoy. You can have turkey sandwiches all weekend or leftover steak, as in our case, this coming weekend. Can't wait to be together with family and friends. It's one of my favorite times of year. It's my favorite holiday. It's because I like to eat and I like to watch football. So there you go. All right, everybody, that's going to do it tonight. Appreciate everybody that's taken the time to stop on by. Tim Whelan, thank you for the great comments, and thank you for watching. And thank you, everybody else that took time out to watch us here tonight. Hope your favorite team wins this weekend, and I hope you enjoy the game. So, all right, that's going to do it. Next week, we'll have another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza, as well as a ACHA Power Play. We're going to have some more college or ACHA hockey guests lined up next week. So it's going to be an eventful week. We'll talk about the conference. We'll preview the conference championship games coming up next week, and also week 11 of the NFL season, or week 12. Week 12, I think it is. I always forget about the bye week. So a lot to talk about next week. So until then, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Be safe if you're traveling. Please be safe. We want you back here next week to watch more of our shows from a selfish standpoint. But ultimately, we want you safe and enjoy family and then just have a lot of fun. All right, this reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Thanks for joining us here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube, powered up by Belly Up Sports. This has been the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So long, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving.